Alright everyone, hello. Today we're going to talk about creating meals for a picnic. By the way, if you want to see these videos 2 weeks earlier, consider subscribing to my Patreon, where you not only get all these videos, but also recipe cards, specific deity profiles, and lots of other interesting things to look at. Video tiers start at $10 a month, so definitely consider checking it out. So, I don't know about you guys, but near us it's starting to get sunnier again. It's a lot of just cloud-free days. It's getting warmer, and it's looking like it's time to get outside, put a blanket down, and just hang out in a park somewhere, right? When it comes to, getting out and enjoying that fresh air, being among all of the things that are popping up in spring, a picnic is a great way to do so, while also showing off a lot of your magical skill. If you guys remember, my Dinner Made Magic video on charcuterie boards, you remember how each different segment of the board had its own magical theme, right? When it comes to packing up for a picnic, there are a lot of cool things you can do depending on how you build your overall picnic menu. But before we get into all of the things that you could put in your basket, we really need to go over tips first, because I have had a couple picnics and both of them had things that definitely could have gone better. Namely, that's because when you're setting up a picnic, it's really easy to go overboard, and it's really easy to take for granted that you don't necessarily have access to all the silverware and, tables and other stuff that you might have at home. So tip number 1 is to consider the tools that you're going to use, the actual inedible items, right? And of course, yes, you could go get one of those big fancy picnic baskets that are like $1 bajillion and have all the silverware set up inside them. You could do that. Or you could just get a tote bag. You could just get a normal tote bag, or something that at least has some insulation for colder stuff that'll keep things from getting spoiled if it's a little hot, things like that. But you don't need to go overboard on the basket or the silverware. In fact, I recommend that you don't do that and you instead just build your menu to be for picky foods, right? Small things you can eat with your hands. But when we're talking about tools, you still have some items that need to go somewhere, right? Maybe some things you don't want to put out on the picnic blanket. So in which case, I recommend you get something like a stool. This is literally just something I got from the Christmas tree shop, and I honestly just use it as a step stool because I'm short and I can't reach any of the things in my house. But when you open it up, right, it stores nicely because it folds flat, but then you open it up and it's a nice size as like a small table or something too. You don't have to buy a whole special tool just to go out and have a picnic. Use things you already got, like a footstool, because you can set this up and put things on it, like a plate or some kind of cutting board for cheese, something like that, where you can put stuff out of the way, off the ground, away from ants and other bugs. Another thing is to remember to bring trash bags. You are not going to want to be that person that leaves a bunch of trash and litter all over the place, nor are you going to be the kind of person that wants to put sticky, mucky, cheesy, weird things back into your tote bag or whatever item you use to transport it all and potentially get it all mucky and gross. That's mucky and gross. We don't do that. So make sure you got some trash bags or something disposable that you can put all of those wrappers or whatever else you might have in there, so you can make sure that the park stays clean and all of your car and your bag and everything else does too. And lastly, I'm going to count this as a tool. Depending on what your goal is and where you are, if you're just in a normal park, pack something fun to do, because eating is great and all, but after that, you're going to want to do something in that nice weather. Pack a ball, pack some badminton gear, pack a frisbee, anything else that's out there that you can do, or maybe just some art supplies to do some coloring under a tree or something. Pack your sunscreen so you don't get burned to hell, all that kind of good stuff, right? When we're thinking about a picnic, we're not just thinking about the food, we're thinking about the entire experience, the whole outdoor activities, right? If you think about whenever you went to the beach as a kid, that kind of counts as a picnic, right? Your mom packed up all of the goods in the cooler and she dragged you out with all your beach toys and she set up camp on that sand and you guys are there for hours. That's kind of a picnic, right? That pretty much is a beach picnic. But okay, when you consider where you are and what you're doing and what kind of tools you might need, right? Any utensils you might need, plastic stuff, bag, stool, blanket, fun things to do. Once all that's squared away, now let's talk about some tips with the food. The reason my picnics always ended up a mess is because I packed too much food and I didn't really prep them beforehand, right? Because when you're going on a picnic, again, you don't have that much access to the same stability and silverware and everything else that you have with your home table. So you want to cut everything beforehand. If you have hard cheeses, like a cheddar or something, slice them up beforehand so that way you can just kind of pick them up. Think about foods that are easy to just eat as finger foods, right? Like fresh strawberries, grapes, slices of apple, things that you can very easily just pick up and go. You don't have to worry about making a big mess on yourself. You don't have to worry about, cutting it up and bringing a bunch of utensils you wouldn't otherwise need. You can lighten your load a lot when you do that work beforehand. Is it going to add to the prep time beforehand? Yes. Is it going to cost a few more plastic bags or Tupperware containers? Yes. But you are going to instead save time on all just the stray wrappers being out, right? Like the actual wrappers that the food came in. You're going to be able to not take so much dirty silverware back home or, have as many plastic utensils to throw out. And it's just going to be a lot more convenient because you're not going to have to worry about fussing and messing with it the entire time. They have all different kinds of foods that you can eat, right? Like for a picnic, they have things like tea sandwiches. You got those cucumber mint sandwiches. You got all these kinds of cute little things you can do. Small items, easy to carry, transportable, not messy and fussy to eat. That's kind of the main thing. This is where the Great American Sandwich really, really shines, right? Because it's quite literally a transportable entire nutritional spread on 2 pieces of bread. And again, don't go overboard on the food, right? That's tip number 3 really, is don't go overboard. You got all your picky foods out, hooray yay, but let me tell you something, every time I make a cheese board I end up having cheese and ham for days, because I forget that 2 people can't eat 3 different kinds of cheese plus 4 different kinds of salami plus 2 different types of fruit plus so on and so forth. It's a lot of food. So I would narrow it down to 1 sweet thing or a fruit, 1 actual dessert, maybe a sandwich, and maybe a couple sleeves of crackers and 1 to 2 max types of cheese for 2 people. If you've got 3, if you've got more, keep scaling it up, right? But unless you're trying to roll yourself out of the park, you don't want to pack so much food that you're going to feel uncomfortable and sick for the rest of the time that you're out there. Keep it in moderation. And keep in mind that whatever you don't eat is going to have to stay in that cooler, in your car, in the heat, outside. Unless you want to come home to some very interesting scents and sights when you open that bag up after it's been in the hot car, keep in mind that the less you bring, the less chance for waste you have. Okay, but great. Now that we got all those tips out of the way, let's talk about what you can do magically. Again, you remember that charcuterie board? The same kind of idea applies here, but rather than have it all set up on 1 plate like I did there, I've got 3 ideas that you can do for a picnic basket, depending on your intention. So say you have a date outside with your partner, you guys wanted to go on a picnic, make it cute, make it nice, and you want those themes of love and romance and purification and friendship, right? Kind of clearing the energy, just leaving nothing but good vibes, amping up those feelings of love and romance and affection and friendship. Don't worry. This is what I would do personally, and as you can see here, we got a little spread. I would do 1 simple deli sandwich, maybe a fig and arugula and prosciutto and goat cheese sandwich. Those are the best. Fig, arugula, goat cheese, and prosciutto is a wonderful combination. But also, notice we got here a picture of hibiscus lemonade. Hibiscus especially for those kind of romantic feelings. Lemonade for the lemon's essence of friendship and purification and energizing. We've got a picky thing like strawberries or figs, which are very easy to just pick up and eat. We've got some nice soft cheeses like brie, and we've got some honey to drizzle on top. That doesn't require a lot of utensils, it's just a little honey stirrer. And the cheese itself, you just might need 1 knife to cut it while you're there, just because it's a soft cheese, you don't really want to cut that beforehand. And then for dessert, maybe you make mini chocolate cherry tarts or some kind of other chocolates you bring along, maybe some Hershey Kisses or something small and easily packaged. And all of these things together, the lemon, the hibiscus, the strawberries, honey, cherry, chocolate, wine if you wanted wine, all of these things have to do with beauty, love, romance, luxury, good times, things that you want to share with a romantic partner. Next up, we have something if you're out with friends. And personally, when you're out with friends, yeah, you can still do things with lemon, right? With that friendship energy. But you can also instead take it more to a lower level, right? Taking all that love and hardcore romance and just toning it down a little bit. So you can instead do things like chamomile tea, which, based on their sunny disposition, right, how they look like a sun surrounded by sun rays, you could think of lifting the mood, having a good time, optimism, luck. Things like apples were also considered lucky. Yes, they're associated with love, but there is the old tale of children cutting them up, and however many seeds were inside would dictate who had the most luck out of the year. So apples are very lucky. Gouda as a cheese is very hearty and strong. And you can do all kinds of other fun things too, right? You can have little tea sandwiches. You can maybe have like a cucumber and mint one for, conversation and emotional openness and vulnerability with your friends. You can have things like potato salad, which is all about healing, and you can throw that dill in, which again really helps with communication. So these things together, the luck, the sunshine, the communication skills, all of these other things in these foods, these are going to help you have a really good time with really great energy and also really great conversation and just openness between one another, which if I'm out with friends, that sounds like a great idea. And last but not least, we have one where on the charcuterie board was more about, professionalism, right? Getting projects done. Here, I'm shifting the focus more towards adventure and excitement. So this is something you could do with your partner or your friends or just a whole group of people, everyone together. You pack up a nice big picnic full of things like, barbecue chips, which are so easy to transport. You've got sandwiches that you can bring along, ones that have spicy pastrami or spicy cheeses on them or something with peppers, jalapenos, and the like on them. You can bring some chai tea. Maybe you stop by, your local cafe and you get some chai on the way. Maybe you make it at home yourself. Something with a lot of ginger, a lot of cinnamon, a lot of those kind of warming spices. This is going to provide that energy of, power, vigor, something that's going to get you going. For extra bulk, right, things like macaroni salad where you can hide some other peppers or paprika in, that really works. And anything else that's got that little bit of a spicy kick and a spicy flair to it, right? You can get like ghost pepper cheddar and you can cut that up with crackers. You can have a spicy salami to go with it. Same thing goes with the sweets, to be honest. I mean, there's nothing easier to bring along than a pack of cookies. And you can make something like snickerdoodles, or you could make something like miedeniaki, which I've made before and you can find on my blog and elsewhere on this channel. You can do pretty much anything, but the point is to invite that fire, that sunshine, that Mars energy, right? Especially if you're playing games outside, that competitive energy, friendship, and all these kinds of things. This is what these ingredients invoke. So if you guys know that peppers signify, power, passion, fun, luck, if you know that things like strawberries are all about romance and love and beauty, very easy to see in these three examples I just gave how each of these different ingredients can provide a different quality and enhance the mood of your picnic depending on what you're going for. Because usually when you have a picnic, you'll see people say to pick a theme like the type of food, like French or Italian, or have a theme around maybe, a certain feeling, like maybe like a beach feeling or something. But as kitchen witches, you can pick a theme magically, and that will very drastically change pretty much the entire layout of your picnic basket, right? At the end of the day though, creating a picnic is really no different than creating any other meal that you've got going for you, right? You want something hearty as the main part, whether it's a sandwich or something like that. You want something to pick at on the side with a lot of nutritional value, something like fruits or vegetables that you can add on. And you want something else that's starchy and filling, crackers, cheeses, other things that are also going to fill you up. And you cannot skip dessert either. But remember that with the anatomy of a meal, you don't have to think of it just on a plate. You can apply those ideas to anything else, including to picnics. I'm actually going on a picnic myself next week, which is really interesting because I got invited to do so after thinking about this episode. So it's kind of like the universe telling me that picnics are great ideas this year. Nonetheless, if you guys are having really good weather out there, I hope you can take these tips and apply them to have a really great time out there somewhere really nice and shiny where you can have tons of fun playing games, exploring, doing whatever you want to do. So with all that said, I will see you guys next week for some more demos and tips. And yeah, have a good week. See ya.